Hello, heathens, and welcome to Spinning the Wheel podcast with me, your effervescent host, Megan Angus. I was effervescent a few weeks ago, and then I was flat, and now I am bubbly once again. You're welcome. In this episode, we are going to be working with the Litha season, new moon in Cancer. This is the start of the 6th lunar month by some systems, and it's also Lunar Week 22. And, just to keep it nice and confusing right off the bat, if you're new here, shit gets weird quick, so welcome, tuck in, pack a lunch, strap in and strap on, drink a glass of water, because this is Cancer season. So we are staying hydrated and moisturized because there's going to be a lot of crying. I don't make the rules. It's just astrology. Okay, let's go. This new moon on July 9 is our first new moon of Litha season and our first new moon of summer. This is where we are really going to come into opening up to the plans and the work and the processes and the situations that is or that make up this part of the wheel of the year. So, what are we doing in Litha season? Well, before I get into that, let's back it up a little bit to spring. What were we doing in spring? In spring, we were passing through Ostara and then Beltane, and the core vibes of spring season are really about curiosity, experimentation, trying things out, opening up, exploring, curiosity, all of that kind of stuff. That's really what's up with our spring energy and our spring work. So if we were going to work with a metaphor here, we might think of our life as a garden. And during spring, we are scattering seeds throughout the garden and just seeing what happens, seeing what takes, seeing what it does. Can any of these seeds work with the natural fertilizer that's in my soil, et cetera, et cetera? We love a metaphor. Okay. So in spring season, experimentation, curiosity, waking up, starting, initiating, things like that. Then we move into summer. We move into Litha season, and later we'll move into Lammas or Lunasad or Lunasa. And in summer season, we are leaving behind our experimentation and we are stepping into claiming the thing. So if we're working with our metaphor of the garden again, during springtime, we've thrown all these seeds out there and some have done some stuff and some haven't, whatever. But we've got like all kinds of little bushes planting, making all kinds of little flowers, and maybe that's some fruit and maybe that's zucchini. I'm not sure. At summertime, we decide I'm going to pick the top 3 plants that I think are going to really benefit from my time, my focus, my energy, my love, my attention, and I'm going to sacrifice the other projects. It's not to say that I might not try to grow tomatoes again at some point in my life. I'm just not going to grow them this year. The zucchini is getting my focus this year. I'm going to rock out the zucchini. So that's a lot of the work that we're doing at this time of year, switching out of our experimentation and switching into claiming, maturing, all of that stuff. And so it's really about power, transformation, healing, and fertility. And on the note of fertility, we have in our Wicca and paganism and some heathen, some witchcraft symbolism, we have the goddess changing from the youthful maiden, who is very much an embodiment of curiosity and initiation, into the mother goddess. And this energy is in a lot of places depicted as a woman who is literally pregnant with a child, and that's a fine archetype to work with. But it literally represents the energy that is in all beings to produce a thing. So we are changing from experimenting and trying things out to committing to the thing that we are going to produce, committing to the thing that we're going to foster and mother, as it were, quote unquote, and ultimately produce in the world. Also, at this time, the Holly King is stepping into their power as well. And so the Holly King is the brash, bold, excited, youthful, strong, fast version of the god form in paganism. And they don't necessarily have a lot of experience. They don't necessarily have a lot of wisdom, but they're bold, they're courageous, they're fast, they're strong. They're going to give it a go and see what happens. They're going to learn a lot and eventually turn into the Oak King and become cynical and bummed out. But, we've got 6 months to get there. Okay. Also, it's important to note that this Sabbat that we are in, Litha season, this is the last Sabbat that overtly emphasizes fertility until the next spring, because the thrust, yang, extrovert, solar energy is only waning from here down to Yule. So as we've said before, with Litha season, this is a fantastic time to ethically harvest herbs and pull in your plant parts that you're going to use for magic later on. And then throughout the rest of the year, it kind of wanes from there. Welcome to the podcast. I'm the Queen of Tangents. Side note, when we use the word fertility in magic, yes, obviously, lots of fertility magic is geared towards making sure that humans can reproduce and make more flesh babies and make more humans. That is 100% a core element, maybe the core element of fertility magic, spellcrafting, ritual, symbolism, etc. And also, fertility magic is just about any human that wants to produce stuff in the world. Results, material goods, crops, whatever. All right. July 9 is our new moon in Cancer at 18 degrees. So if you have anything on or around 18 degrees in your natal chart, 18 degrees of Cancer specifically, this could be a pretty potent new moon for you. This lunar cycle starts with a new moon in Cancer, and this is our first new moon of summer and of Litha season. So there is a real feeling of new cycle to this moon. We are really starting here, okay? If you feel like you haven't quite been able to catch up with the summer vibes or the Litha vibes, which is frankly super freaking realistic, because hello, the world is a little bit much right now. So if you're not running at optimal speeds, perfectly understandable. But if you've been really I can't quite get into sync with this new moon may really help with that. And on this new moon, well, it's Cancer, right? So that's about family stuff. And family is whoever we consider family. That's the people who nurtured you and raised you, however you interpret that concept. So we want to take a look at all the relationships in our life on a Cancer new moon, but in particular, we want to take a real close look at relationships that center nurturing and nurturing activities. We want to think about our own earliest experiences of nurturing and bonds with folks who are the same sex as us, as well as the femmes in our lives. And if you don't have any bonds with folks who are the same sex as you, what's that about? Consider that. That might be some of the work that you're doing here. Why am I not connecting with my people? We might also think about the ways that we differentiated ourselves from our same-sex parent or parents. And finally, this is a moon that deeply supports rites of passage. So if you feel like any personal milestone in your life needs some acknowledgement, maybe just having made it to the fucking halfway point of 2021, is there a save button? Can I save my game at this point on this level? Is that at all possible? Okay, but seriously, Rites of passage are incredibly important for us emotionally and psychologically and spiritually. It is a moment for us to sort of like consciously acknowledge that we have changed in some way or that we made it through something. And also to be witnessed by our community and have that change witnessed or that process witnessed by our community. Graduation, getting your driver's license, getting your first binder, getting your first shot of estrogen, your first kiss, even blowing out a birthday candle. These are all rites of passage. And it is, in my opinion, always appropriate to hold these moments up for celebration. Do you menstruate, for example? Did you have a party when your periods started? Maybe you could finally witness that shift in this lunar cycle and throw a party for your younger self. The first pubes, were those celebrated? The first chin hairs, were those celebrated? I'm talking to a lot of old ladies out there too who have gone through menopause. Those first chin hairs. But things like passing a test, finally getting your certification in that thing that you have been really driving at, all of that stuff counts. These are all things that we can witness and celebrate through rites of passage. And this new moon in Cancer super duper ultra supports all of it. Okay. You know that we can't just have things be nice. So this new moon in Cancer also is sextile Uranus, trine Neptune in retrograde, and opposed to Pluto in retrograde, although that aspect is fairly wide and it is not super hardcore influential. So let's talk about the astrology even more so of this new moon in Cancer. Okay, so the tightest aspect that this new moon in Cancer is experiencing is a sextile to Uranus, who is hanging out in Taurus right now. There is also, as I said, a trine to Neptune, who is retrograde currently, and there's also an opposition to Pluto, who is retrograde as well. But again, those aspects are pretty wide, and they're there. They're something to consider, but I don't think they're as influential as the sextile to Uranus. And the sextile to Uranus brings in this pleasantly restless kind of energy that's like, maybe you need to move the couch, but also it could be like friends from the past suddenly popping up and being like, hey, let's have this really great reminiscent moment. Which sits very comfortably. If you listened to last week's podcast, the work that we're doing with that balsamic Cancer is, going back into the past and checking out old media from the past, but really kind of checking out our memories from the past, and then also checking in with people who were there, right? So what's interesting to me is that this sextile to Uranus also is bringing us friends from the past suddenly popping up and being like, hey, do you remember this and that? But we might get a lot of freedom vibes. There might be a lot of excitement with this moon. And and all of those things are also really interesting to me because the new moon in Cancer in general is a real homebody moon. It's a real like, I'm going to make stew and wear some comfy clothes and like look at pictures of myself as a baby kind of moon. And all of those things are perfectly fine. But this sextile to Uranus is definitely like, let's have a few friends over that we haven't talked to in 25 years while we sit around and eat some stew and look at baby pictures. It's kind of trippy. I don't know. And also that sextile to Uranus brings in a much higher sense of self-awareness. And I think that that's going to really help with some of the other astrology that we're dealing with this week. Okay, let's also talk about this trine to Neptune and the opposition to Pluto. So when Neptune gets involved, things get a little dreamy, they can get a little hazy, they can get a little spooky sometimes. It's a trine, though. So this is very sweet. This is like imagination stimulation station, and it is really great for daydreaming, for making art, for being very sympathetic in our encounters with people, and studying mystical writings or mystical work. And we actually get that several times this week, which I think is also really, really cool. There is an overall vibe of studying and working on mystical activities, oracular activities, divination stuff, religion, philosophy, all throughout the week. It's sort of emphasized over and over again. And so Neptune is bringing us a lot of that. Where can things get a little funky with Neptune? We might be so sensitive that we are starting to pick up on other people's vibes and start mistaking their vibes or their experiences as our own. So we want to be as clear as we can about understanding the difference between reality and fantasy, understanding the difference between that's your memory, this is my memory, all of that kind of stuff. That's where things can get a little odd. Just take it all with a grain of salt. Like if you're doing your mystical work, your religion work, that kind of study, be open to the ideas, but take it with a grain of salt. And then we have this opposition from Pluto. And the opposition to Pluto, it's not exciting, but it's also really kind of a weak influence. It's pretty far out. So emotions could be a bit more heavy, a bit more intense than usual on this day. Um, this could stir up some stuff from the subconscious. And that may be like, oh, wow, what's coming up from the bottom of the barrel? Oh, no. Or it could just make the waters kind of murky and cloudy. And where does that get funky? Well, it's not a super great day to like try to come to a conclusion. Again, with the Neptunian influence, this opposition to Pluto, it's just like things feel heavy, they feel foggy. And so it's not a great day to be like really clear on like, this is my decision, da da da. But if truth needs to be spoken to power, this opposition to Pluto is a fantastic support for that because it really emphasizes the idea that holding in whatever that truth is actually giving it power over you. And so saying it out loud is like releasing it. You'll know if this makes sense for your context or not. These might just be things that you witness in the world or in the people around you, and you might not experience them personally yourself, but consider these things. Look for the metaphor. You never know, right? Okay. What else are we doing with this Cancer new moon? Well, let's talk about our lunar body and our plant body work. In our lunar body work, we are opening, activating, stimulating, adorning, awakening our breasts, our chests, our bellies, and our stomachs. Anything like that. It's time to get the glitter suntan lotion and just smear it all over the front of you. Maybe it's time to wear some really awesome necklaces. Maybe it's time to fix the straps on your bra or your binder. Like what's up? Maybe it's time for you to show us your brand new chest for the first time and head out to the nude beach shirtless. Maybe it's time. Let's celebrate it. All right. And with our plant bodies, we are planting, transplanting, or grafting, especially where we want to stimulate above ground growth. So plants that are flowering, plants that produce fruits or nuts, anything kind of where we want to encourage upward growth, right? We've talked about this kind of the difference between these things in the past. When the moon is waning and we're doing our planting or transplanting type stuff, we're concerned with the health of the root systems, right? We're like, I really want to make sure that the underground growth is supported and sustained and all of that stuff. The moon is waxing now. So now we're planting and transplanting and doing plant work where we want to encourage above the soil activity. Okay. What is going on this day? Let's talk about some of the holy days of July 9th. All right, the holy day that I'm really going to go in on is actually a holy festival. It's a multi-week festival called the Festival of the Beautiful Reunion. This is from our ancient Egyptian neighbors and ancestors. And this is probably the best documented festival focused on the goddess Hathor, who is do-it-all goddess. She's yes, I cover that as well, goddess. She's a mother goddess. She's a warrior. She's a producer, a sustainer, a destroyer. She is shown in a variety of aspects. One of her other very famous aspects is the lion-headed Hathor, who is Hathor as Sekhmet, or Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess. And this festival, the Festival of the Beautiful Reunion, took place over 14 days in the month of Epiphy, which is where we are right now in the ancient Egyptian calendar. Hathor's cult image from Dendera was carried by boat to several temple sites to visit the gods of those temples. And this is up the Nile River that we're moving, or down technically. So we're moving from Cairo, basically, where the Great Pyramids are, deeper into southern Egypt. The end point of this journey was the Temple of Horus at Edfu. And so this is the celebration of Edfu and all of that stuff that we see listed in the Litha book, where the Hathor statue from Dendera met that of Horus of Edfu, and these two statues were placed together. On one day of the festival, these images were carried out to a shrine where primordial deities such as the sun god and the Ennead were said to be buried. The texts say the divine couple performed offering rites for these entombed gods. Now, many Egyptologists regard this festival as a ritual marriage between Horus and Hathor, and then other archaeologists challenge that view, and they argue instead that it represented the rejuvenation of the buried creator gods. And then, another archaeologist says that this was a celebration of the return of the distant goddess, citing allusions in the temple's festival texts to the myth of the solar eye. And then yet another archaeologist, Barbara Richter, argues that the festival represents all of these things. And she points out that the birth of Horus and Hathor's son, Ahi, was celebrated in Dendera 9 months after the Festival of the Beautiful Reunion, implying that Hathor's visit to Horus represented Ahi's conception. And I agree with her. I think she's probably right. We have a lot of sacred marriages happening at this time of year, right? We talked a lot about that in the Litha class as well. So that these two cats wouldn't be knocking sacred boots would actually be a little odd compared to all of the other holy days that we see in the ancient world at this time of year, celebrating sacred marriages between gods and goddesses. There is even more information out there about the Festival of the Beautiful Reunion. There's a lot of really cool symbolism, a lot of really cool synchronicity. But why I wanted to kind of go in heavy on this one is because A, it's super old, and B, we are going to see a lot of this same kind of symbolism throughout the rest of the week with other holy days. Okay, let's move on. Okay, July 10. The moon moves into Leo. And at this point, I'm not thinking of it as a new moon anymore. Once it has changed sign, I definitely am thinking of this as a waxing crescent moon. As we have talked about in other episodes, at the beginning of the lunar month, quote unquote, the first day, not the day of the new moon, the first day that we can see the new moon, that is the true beginning of the lunar month, especially when we're talking about calendars that were used in the ancient world. So this day is also Calendae Quintilis, which is the Roman name for this month. Quintilis used to be the 5th month, hence the name Quintilis. And that was when their year started in March. Their year started really close to spring equinox. And then with their calendar change, instigated by Julius Caesar, I believe, Quintilis became the 7th month, and its name was changed to Julius, or July, for that one guy. Also on this day, we have the start of the Greek month, Hekatombeon. And again, it's the moment that the new moon is visible. So that might be July 10th. That might even be July 11th, but I'm just marking it as July 10th because it's easier for me. That's why. All right. On this day, the moon is entering Leo. Okay. So Here is my most sage, witchy, loving advice. Give your motherfucking self a break and do some shit that will make you laugh. Go to see a comedy show, go hang out with friends and get stupid. Watch a funny movie, get a bunch of people together to watch a funny movie, do a social distancing funny movie party over Zoom, whatever you got to do. Read funny stories, go get a joke book and like read them out loud because they're so stupid. Like whatever you got to do, have a good time. This particular moon in Leo, by Raven Caldera's measure, is called the clown moon. A lot of the information that I get about these lunar phases and the names for these various lunar phases come from Raven Caldera's book, Moon Phase Astrology, which is just a really cool addition to your astrology book collection. I really recommend it. It's got some cool ideas in it. I don't agree with them on every single thing, but I do like a lot of where they're coming from. And one of the big emphases for this moon is relax, have a good time, take a load off, laugh, and enjoy yourself and really like invoke the joy. Evoke the joy, but invoke the joy. And, I know some of you out there have to be a bummer. So, okay, it's fine. I've got work for you too. If you have to be a bummer, if you have to have it like, no, it's a serious moon. I laughed 4 times earlier today. Now what? Consider, your relationship to humor. Consider how you work with humor in your life. I know that if I'm going to get real here for a moment, I love to be a funny person. I love to make other people laugh. It brings me happiness and joy, but I also use humor as a defense mechanism. I know that if people are laughing at me, they're hopefully not mad at me, and maybe they'll even like me if I can make them laugh at me. So, on July 10th, I'll come back to this part of the conversation for a little while, and then I'm probably going to put on some Bill Hicks CDs. Problematic, but I'm old and he's still funny to me. Okay, so when we are working with the moon in Leo and it is waxing for our lunar body, we want to be opening, activating, adorning, or stimulating our manes, our lion's mane of hair, as well as our chest, our hearts, and our backs. And this, of course, can be our physical bodies. I am not a doctor, side note, just Dr. Love, as I say in every episode. So please do things that are safe and appropriate for you when it comes to your physical health. Listen to your doctor a billion times before you ever listen to my goofy butt. But you can also work with the metaphor of like, is there something you need to get off your chest? How is your heart feeling emotionally, right? Is there something you need to get off your back? Work with the metaphor. Like I always say, work with the metaphor. Spelling is spelling. So, all right. And when we are dealing with our plant bodies for this moon, we are controlling insects and pests. We are plowing, we're weeding, and this is another great day for harvesting. Of course, as we talked about in the last couple of episodes, all of Litha season, in particular, the night of summer solstice, but that's just one night, right? All of Litha season is a fantastic time to ethically harvest plant parts and plant materials that you're going to use now and throughout the next year, like 365 days up to next summer solstice, because the solar energy is at its peak. Just like we're talking about with our fertility energy, that this is like the last portion of the sun really raging and doing its thing. It works for the plant world too. So if you're out there and harvesting magical parts, this is a really great day for that. Okay, July 11th. We start off with, we have our waxing baby moon still hanging out in Leo. And then the other astrology of this day is Mercury is entering Cancer. Cute. Okay. Mercury is going to be hanging out in Cancer until August 11th. While Mercury is here, We might all communicate with a little bit more sensitivity and a little bit more thoughtfulness. Conversely, folks may come across as more thoughtful and more sensitive than they actually are. We might interpret facts and data from a very personal place. And we might really take things from a very subjective versus objective stance. So when we're encountering people or situations or experiences, we're sort of moving from an emotional space versus a logical or intellectual space. You might feel slow to respond to stuff, but it's because you might be feeling through your thoughts and feeling out the situation before you speak or before you think about it or before you communicate about it. You might find that how a situation or person feels is way more important to you than anything that was said or what the facts are on the paper. It might be way more about the vibes for this time period. Your memory might be sharper than usual, and or memories from the past of information that you had totally forgotten might come up. And again, doesn't that sit really interestingly with this Cancer moon work that we've been doing for the last few days, right? Yes, I know the moon is in Leo now, but we had our balsamic moon in Cancer and then we had our new moon in Cancer, both really supporting this info from the past, memories from the past, checking in with other people about those, how they remember things and all of that stuff. So again, you might be remembering stuff from the past that's like, wait, where did this come from? But what you might actually be remembering is the mood around the events and not necessarily the events themselves. So just be present with yourself if your recollections start to skew towards the super emotional or super defensive, or like, you start to kind of get freaked out by stuff, like just reel it back in a little bit and try to remember that piece. In general, expect your emotions and your memories to hold a much stronger sway over your communication styles for this period. This is also a fantastic season to enjoy old poetry and archaic languages and stuff like that. Okay, holy days and holy weeks that kick off from July 11th. From July 11th to July 18th, we have Non-Binary Awareness Week. This is a global holiday that celebrates awareness and activism and support for all of those folks who do not fit within the traditional gender binary, i.e., those who do not exclusively identify as a man or a woman, or who may identify as both a man or a woman, or may fall outside of these categories altogether. This whole week is dedicated to awareness and celebration of our non-binary friends and lovers and community members. And in particular, on July 14th, this is Non-Binary Awareness Day celebrated globally. And that day was picked because it is precisely in between International Men's Day and International Women's Day. Cute! I love it. Okay. Also happening on this day, we have the Hindu festival of Bedainklam. This is a popular harvest festival. So here we go with another harvest festival. And it literally means to drive away evils, Ben Dain, and plague, Kalam, and is often called the specific name of driving away the demon of cholera. Taking place at the end of the sowing season, just as the rainy months begin, the festival lasts for 4 days. Probably the most striking feature of this very colorful festival are the tall, super tall bamboo structures brightly decorated with paper called rots or roths. Each village will create a rot with their own symbols and messages, and about 30 men will carry the rot to a sacred pool called Eitnar, where the rots are immersed to bring good fortune. The villages then compete in a type of soccer game with a wooden ball, and the victors will gain even extra blessings for the coming months. And the other thing that's happening on this day is the Feast of Saint Benedict from our Catholic friends. I'm not going to get into it. Benedict was an interesting guy. The Rule of Saint Benedict is the book that basically all monasteries went by once he had written it. He was like, do it like this. So that's cool. TLDR, dude basically just got sick of everybody and went and lived in a cave for several years. And then people found out he was in the cave and they kept like trying to get him to do stuff and kept trying to menace him. And he finally was like, bah, and left and went to like an even harder to find cave. And I was like, these are goals. I enjoy this man's approach to life when it comes to this in particular. The Catholicism, not so much, but what are you going to do? Very, very Virgo vibes, right? Very hermit card vibes. Really love that. All right, let's move on to July 12th. All right, July 12th, the moon is still hanging out in Leo. And astrologically, what do we have going on this day? Well, Mercury in Cancer, trine Jupiter retrograde in Pisces at 1 degree. And frickin' dope. We love a trine to Jupiter. I don't really care what's going on. It's probably going to be dope, cool, rad, wicked, boss, in effect, ill, sick. Did I say dope? It'll probably be dope. Okay. This is a fantastic day for getting me back on track. Okay, that's never going to happen. All right. This is a great day for making plans, especially about your future, of any kind. Travel, business, pleasure, whatever. Make plans for the future. This is a great day for bringing order and organization to your systems. Really, any kind of intellectual efforts are supported and given a huge boost. Business stuff, commercial stuff, rebranding, anything. Really, honestly, anything. And here is a thing, though. It all might feel so easy that you start to think, fuck it, I'll just take the easy way out and skip this little corner and nobody will know, or I'm not going to quite finish that part, or I'm not going to, fix that one little mistake that I found, and it'll all be fine. And the thing is, it probably will be fine. Probably nobody will notice that one little thing that you didn't do, or that you kind of skipped through it, or whatever. It's probably going to be fine. But here's the thing. This transit really rewards hard work and applying yourself to your project or your situation or your process or whatever it is that we're talking about here. And here is how it rewards you. Because it's not just enough for me to tell you, oh, it's good, just do the thing. I want you to understand what it is that Mercury and Jupiter are doing for us here. Mercury and Jupiter coming together in this way indicates a time where we can open our mind to information. We process and we sift through that information more efficiently, just in a different way for whatever reason. And in turn, you begin to see the inherent possibilities in the situation at hand, which in turn fosters a sense of optimism about our situation, which in turn helps to further open our mind to possibilities, which boosts our optimism. I think you're getting the picture. So it really rewards us being in the work and applying ourselves, because that's kind of where the miracle happens. It's like we get into it and we're like, maybe the day before feeling frustrated, feeling shut down, oh, I'm overwhelmed, or whatever the gig is, right? But on this day, with this particular transit, suddenly we're sifting through the information, we're sifting through the parts, and it's like, wait a minute, I didn't notice this before. Wait a minute, does this part fit with that part? Oh, that's really cool. Wait, if this does this, then that means I could also, oh wow, what if I did this? Oh man, does this do this? It does. Oh gosh, maybe I could. It's a lot of that stuff. And if we're sitting not doing our work, not dealing with it, is it still going to be lovely? Yes, people will enjoy it. It'll be fine. But if we are in there touching the parts, thinking about it, looking at it, getting it on us, we get that intimate extra bonus piece and we begin to really understand what it is that we're working with and its potential and where we might actually go with it. And so that, I want to bring you back to that idea of this is a great day for making plans for the future, bringing order and organization to your systems, all of that stuff. And now I think you see why. Okay, also on this day, we have the heliacal rising of the fixed star Castor, which is the head of the northern twin in the constellation of Gemini. Also, starting this day and running through August 23rd are the Delta Aquariid meteor showers. And the peak of them fall around July 29th ish. We're going to have a full moon a few days before that. So the peak of the meteor shower is going to get kind of blocked out, but we will get some opportunity to get some good meteor showers. There's more information about Castor as well as the constellation of Gemini and the Delta Aquariid meteor showers in the book for Litha, as well as the 2-hour class. Go watch it. Also on this day, we have Puri Ratha Yatra from our Hindu friends. We talk about this holiday as well a whole lot in the class, but TLDR, gigantic chariots carry gigantic icons of gods and goddesses around these Hindu villages, and it's really freaking cool. But hello, chariots? Chariot card from tarot is connected to the sign of Cancer, which is the tropical astrology sign that the sun is traveling through currently. Okay, cool. The one holiday that I am going to focus on from this day is the Neeman Kachina dances from Hopi Native Americans start at this time of year. They are approximately a 16-day festival that includes feasting and ceremonial performances by masked dancers. And basically, this is a celebration of the Kachina entities, these deities, spirit entities. And also, this holiday is also called the going home of the Kachinas. And so this is literally a ceremony to say thank you and goodbye to these winter and spring spirits or entities or deities that have been protecting and guiding the people. And they move away from the village, they move away from the people, and they return to the spirit world in the San Francisco peaks for the rest of the year. So really cool stuff. All right, July 13th, we have our waxing crescent moon entering Virgo. This is a fantastic moon that supports learning new skills, polishing old skills, working in groups, especially with handicrafts or with people who are all learning a new skill together. Super potent. In general, educate yourself. Any kind of class or workshop will do as long as you are learning something practical. This is also a great time for learning and developing discipline and good habits in general. So if there is a habit that you have been trying to instill into your daily routine or your regular routine, this could be a moon that really assists you getting that habit in there and getting in the groove of it. Yeah, totally complements this work. Also on this day, Venus conjunct Mars in Leo at 19 degrees. This is the technical term for this is Humpatron Aconathon. Okay, so we may be way more direct than usual on this day if we are feeling flirtatious, if we have a crush, if we are turned on by somebody or attracted to somebody. We might just be like falling over ourselves to get the message across to this person, and that might be really, really cute. Also, people might be really forward and flirtatious with you. Leo, both of these planets, I mean, this is going to happen every time Venus conjuncts Mars, right? But in Leo, there's a lot of performance. There's a lot of display. There's a lot of like peacock feather type moment happening here. So it also could be like, wow, I didn't know you felt like that. Okay. Like that was how much money did you spend on those fireworks to like do this thing? Like that was a lot. Also, who's shooting off fireworks at this time of year with this drought? Stop that. Okay. Yeah. So if you're feeling crushy on someone, this could be a really cute day to say something or feel it out, you know. Also, we might just be feeling more willing to meet people halfway. We might just be feeling super vivacious and dynamic. We might also just be feeling really driven to get what we want. So even if we're feeling super cute and vivacious and like we can do no wrong, just remember, like, if you're making a decision today, don't make a decision that you're going to regret later. When in doubt, art it out. That's my thing. When Venus is involved, it's like Venus is tempting us to do something that maybe we should do, maybe we shouldn't do. Art it out. Art it out. Okay. For the lunar body, we are opening, stimulating, activating, and adorning our digestive apparatuses and our organs, our spleens, and our nerves and our nervous system. What does that mean to adorn our digestive apparatuses? I don't know. If you want to eat some edible glitter so that your intestines are glittery, that's cute. But, work with the metaphor, kids. Work with the metaphor. Plant body, be chill. We're not touching the plants when the moon is in Virgo. We're too nitpicky about stuff and we're going to pick it to death. Not going to help the plants. We're only going to hurt them. All right. Let's talk about the holy days of July 13th. From July 13th through the 22nd, from our ancient Roman ancestors, we have the Ludi Apollinaires. We've talked about the Ludi in other episodes. The Ludi they are games, basically, that the state would put on for the populace to keep them distracted from things and keep them entertained. Kind of like what we do today with football and America's Got Talent. It's basically the same thing. The Ludi Apollinaires, however, were really solemn, and they were annually held by ancient Romans in honor of the god Apollo. The tradition goes that at the first celebration thereof, they were suddenly invaded by an enemy and obliged to take up their arms, and then eventually they were able to get back to it. But the games are totally established in this time period. After inspecting a collection of prophecies, and they literally were just intended to allay the public's fears and distract them from wars that were happening in the north. Equestrian games, stage performances, etc. Also on July 13th and running through the 15th, we have the modern pagan holiday of the Feast of the Moon. So does anybody remember what the 13th, 14th, and 15th of every lunar month is? Do, 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 do. It's the full moon. It's the full moon. Okay. So as we have talked about in previous episodes with when it pertains to modern pagan holidays, what we're often finding is that somebody at some point has decided on a fixed date for something that otherwise would be a moving date. So obviously the date of the full moon in July is going to be different from year to year. But if we're thinking of the high point of the month in a fixed sense, it's the 13th, 14th, 15th. That makes sense. It's right in the middle of the month. It's where the full moon would be if the month actually started with the new moon. So this is a super potent holiday, a modern pagan construction or reconstruction. Okay, cool, whatever. But the moon during July is really, really potent because the sun is traveling through Cancer. The moon is the natural ruler of Cancer. So there's just this big extra potent emphasis on all of this stuff. So you could celebrate this holiday on these fixed dates of the 13th, 14th, and 15th, and just always know that in your mind and not have to worry about doing the math every year. Or you could remember the full moon of July, whenever that's going to be. And this month, it falls on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. So do with that what you will. Moving on. All right, on July 14th, the waxing crescent moon is still in Virgo, so we are still doing our Virgo work, our meditations, our journaling, whatever our body work is, all of that stuff. There are three holy days affiliated with this day. I'm not going to talk about them too much. One of them, the first one, is the Dies Natalis of the Temple of Fortuna Muliebris. And this is yet another version of Fortuna or luck. that we see earlier in the week. There is a dies natalis for the temple of Felicitas or Felicitas, which is in particular. Yes, that's right. Let's turn on all the sirens. We know we love to have sirens during the podcast. Let's get more of them. Um, um, Earlier in the week, we had the dies natalis for the temple of Felicitas or Felicitas. And so this is the dies natalis of the temple of Fortuna Millibris. And the dies natalis, as we have talked about on other episodes, this is the birthday of the temple itself within which the deity lives. And so during a dies natalis, there's a general like cleansing and resetting of the temple. This deity that I mentioned previously from earlier in the week, we didn't talk about it, but the Felicitas is in particular a type of good luck, not just luck, but good luck that is specifically in regard to women's luck in pregnancy, and women's luck in fertility, or people's luck in pregnancy and fertility in particular. And this version of Fortuna is also concerned with that womanly or female fortune, an aspect of the Roman goddess of luck and fate who cared for the well-being and the luck of women, especially married women. So it's very likely that these were two versions of a goddess that ultimately got mashed into one. Felicitas is actually a really old Roman goddess, so that character may have been first and then ultimately morphed into this Fortuna Millibris, where we see this thing with a lot of the Roman deities that, like with Juno, with Apollo, with Jupiter in particular, where they have these other words that get added to the end that's like, oh yeah, I do that too. Because it's really important to remember about Fortuna. Fortuna, the goddess, represents luck. That could be any kind of luck. Good luck, bad luck, weird luck, luck that came too late, luck that came too early, like who knows, right? Versus the Felicitas or Felicitas, however you want to pronounce her name, is very specifically this good luck, and good luck in concern of production, happiness, fertility, pregnancy, those types of things, the cornucopia, all that stuff. One of the things that I think is interesting about Fortuna Millibris is that she is depicted with a rudder and a cornucopia, symbolizing fate, who guides, and the abundance chance may bring. She is also usually seated, which represents a wish for the stability of good fortune. So cool stuff. Okay. Also on this day, we have the U.S. Catholic observance of the Feast of Saint Kateri. We talked about this saint in March in one of the earlier episodes. This is Kateri Tekakwitha, a woman who was Algonquin Mohawk. She was born in the Mohawk village of Osserdinon on the south side of the Mohawk River in present-day New York State. She contracted smallpox, her family died, and she was scarred. Her face and her arms were scarred from the smallpox. She was forced into one of those residential schools. Why she is here with the Catholics is that she is the fourth Native American to be venerated in the Catholic Church, and she is the first to be canonized. And I pray with all my heart she's the last Native American woman to be canonized, because I think the Catholics have done plenty when it comes to the indigenous people of Turtle Island. Thank you. Sit all the fucking way down. Thanks. She refused to marry. She converted, quote unquote, to Catholicism at the age of 19, and she died at the age of 24. So a very short life, tough, bad, gross. Light a candle for this poor woman. And Donate money to an indigenous organization near you because they are probably fighting to protect water. Hashtag land back, guys. It's time. It's time. It's time. It's time. Okay. Also, here on July 14th, we have our non binary people's day within the whole non binary people's awareness week. This is the big day. Woohoo! All right, let's move on to July 15th. And on this day, we have our waxing crescent moon entering Libra. This moon can engender a deep need for aesthetic beauty. And it is a wonderful moon to make art, to see art, and to be art. Is it time for club kids to come out of retirement? Yes. Yes, it is. I don't make the rules. It's just astrology. This is an amazing moon to move your body. Dance. Whatever feels good. Go to a dance performance. Go to a museum. Just even hanging out in a botanical garden or near a waterfall is incredible. And note that waterfall thing because we're going to talk about a holy day for July 16th that literally is about hanging out near a waterfall. So when I read that in the book, I was like, well, that's magic, isn't it? Social distancing party for the time of moon being in Libra, absolutely 100%. Just make sure everybody looks really good and the decorations are super cute. That's all we need to focus on. But yeah, it's all about the aesthetics. It's all about moving our body, about being art, making art, appreciating art, anything like that. Really, really suited for the waxing crescent moon in Libra. For our lunar body, we are opening, activating, adorning, stimulating our hips, our kidneys, our bladder. And you can, again, work with the metaphor of detoxification when it comes to like kidneys and bladder being this system that purifies our blood and ultimately removes toxins from our system. I don't want to get into a conversation about literally detoxing the body because the body does that. The body does it on a regular basis. It's not necessarily a process that we have to get into, and I don't want to get into it. But what is the metaphor of detoxification? What's the metaphor around getting things out of your systems that don't need to be there anymore, but maybe can be used to purify things somewhere else? Okay. Plant body work, nothing. Just like in Virgo, during Libra, we're just leaving the plants alone. Let them chill. Hang out. Maybe water them. Make sure they're doing okay with all this freaking heat that we have had. Okay, let's talk about the astrology that's happening on this day because we have a couple different things going on, and you're going to see how this links up to other stuff that we've already talked about in the week. First off, we have Sun in Cancer, trine Neptune in retrograde in Pisces at 23 degrees. So here comes Neptune again into the conversation. This transit can feel very idyllic and idyllic. So it is a fantastic time to have a deep conversation with yourself and get clear on where you are spiritually in your life and if you are fulfilled here. And are you fulfilling the things that you have been called to do here? Not like there hasn't been a billion, trillion, gajillion things happening in the physical world to distract us from our spiritual process, our inner process. But by some holy books and philosophies and belief systems out there, that's all the same stuff, right? When we are slogging through the muck and the shit is literally when, by some philosophies, we are the closest to God or to deity or to our own personal holiness. So where are you in that process? That's what this trine is asking us to kind of explore. And it's a trine. So it, in theory, could be, should be, might be an easy, flowing, kind of naturally progressing conversation rather than like a spooky thing that you kind of have to drag out of yourself. Okay. This is a fantastic day to go off and dream. This is great for doing more mystical work. any kind of meditation. Our psychic sensitivity might be really acute on this day. We may have religious or spiritual experiences. We may be having like flashes of ESP, telekinesis, like teleknowledge, like all of that kind of stuff. Like our magic may be really popping off on this day. If there's any way that this might be a little like it's that sun in Cancer, sun trine Neptune can really encourage us to wear rose colored glasses when it comes to the people that we are in love with or feeling loving towards. And we might really want to put these people on a pedestal and think of them as something greater than a human when they are probably just still a mortal human like me, totally normal mortal. Also on this day, we have Chiron stationing retrograde in Aries at 12 degrees. Chiron can be tough to talk about. So let me first start with the fact that Chiron is going to be retrograde for almost 6 months. It's going to station direct on December 20th, so winter solstice. So this Chiron in retrograde process is literally carrying us from summer solstice to winter solstice through the whole portion of the Holly King's reign. And Chiron can be tough to talk about because Chiron represents the sacred wound that we all carry. We all have one. And it's that thing in us that always feels vulnerable and tender and sore and is possibly always a source of pain of some type to us. On the day that it appears to change direction, we can feel all of that stuff extra hard, extra crunchy, extra meh. It often feels like a scab that's getting ripped off of an issue that you thought you already had a handle on. So all of a sudden it's like, wait, I'm still like super tilted by this thing that I totally thought I had wrangled and accepted and integrated. And Chiron's like, nope. Chiron's job is literally to point out the places where we have not healed yet. And not just that, but also Chiron's job is to point out the wisdom that we receive from learning how to live gracefully with that pain. So Chiron is stationing retrograde at 12 degrees of Aries, and it will roll back to 8 degrees where it will turn direct, like I said, on December 20th, winter solstice. So if you have any planets or points at 8 degrees to 12 degrees of Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, they are going through a Chiron transit right now. And if that's you, I encourage you to make a place in your life for, drumroll please, discomfort. Yeah, I know. Exciting, right? This transit is all about reconnecting deeply to the wounded parts of yourself and reconnecting to the wisdom found there. Especially with all of this Neptunian emphasis that we have this week, with this happening as well. Some of that might feel a little overwhelming. I love you. You've got this. Some of it might feel like, I don't know how to put this into words. It just hurts. I'm not even sure where this pain is coming from exactly. And so work with your spiritual wisdom sources, your religious wisdom sources, right? We have this mentioned so many times this week already. Do it. Go there for the support, for the wisdom, for the guidance on how to approach this pain. All of us have something in our life like this. And Chiron, as much as it feels like Chiron just shows up to poke at things and be like, is that still sore? Poke, poke. It's really here to be like, we have not quite healed this. There is still something going on here. We need to be fully aware of what is going on with this system and where it's causing us pain, how it's causing us pain, why it's causing us pain, and what we can do with that knowledge. How can we help ourselves? How can we help other people with that? That's what's up with Chiron. All right. Also on this day, we have the heliacal rising of the fixed star Pollux, which marks the head of the southern twin in the constellation Gemini. Castor and Pollux were the two gods of Sparta in Greece. They were the sons of Leda, who was the queen of Sparta. Their Roman equivalents are Apollo and Hercules. Pollux, aka Hercules, comes from the Greek Polydeucus, hence he was the boxer. Pollux was the immortal twin and a skilled horseman. When Castor was killed in battle, Pollux asked his father, Zeus or Jupiter, that he die to forever be with Castor. Zeus killed Pollux with a bolt of lightning and placed the twins in heaven as the constellation Gemini. Lots and lots and lots and lots more information on Castor and Pollux and the constellation of Gemini in the Litha handbook for the class, as well as the 2-hour video. Go watch it, go read it, go check it out. Okay. Other holy days on this day. We have the Feast of Rowena from our modern pagan calendars. Rowena was the daughter of the mythological Anglo-Saxon chief Hengist, who we talked about in the May 5th podcast. The name Rowena, interestingly, does not appear in any Old English sources, like any of them. It was first recorded by Geoffrey of Monmouth in his 12th century Historia Regum Britanniae, and used a bunch of different spellings. And so some people think that this is just a totally made up entity, totally fictional character. Other people think that the name may connect to the Welsh Rhonwen, and this could be connected to the word horsehair, which is Welsh roan, which might be significant given her father and her uncle's association with horses. But we also know that the Welsh kind of have a thing with the horses and horse goddesses and all of that stuff. So, interesting thing there. Also on this day, we have the Dies Natalis of the Temple of the Two Pales from our Roman ancestors. We've talked about Dies Natalis already. We know what's up with that. Who are the Pales? The Pales was or were a deity of shepherds, flocks, and livestock. We've actually had some other holidays earlier in the year dedicated to this deity or deities. Regarded as male by some sources and female by others, pales or pales can be either singular or plural in Latin and refers to at least once a pair of deities. So I love that we have the Dies Natalis of this entity or entities in our week of celebrating our non-binary friends and lovers and comrades and community members. So here we literally have a deity that is non-binary, is depicted as multiple genders, both, either, neither, all of that. We love it. Okay. Also on this day, we have the Feast of Juno Caprotinia. The Caprotinia, or the Feasts of Juno Caprotinia, were ancient Roman festivals which were celebrated about this time of year. They were more or less only for female slaves. And yeah, there's not a lot to say about it that I really feel good about. So I'm just going to leave it at that. If you're interested, look it up. But I have a feeling that this holiday in the form that we know it now, the way it's recorded, is probably not what it started out as. I'll just leave it as that. All right, let's move on to the next day. All right, that brings us to July 16th, which is the last day of this lunar week. And we find the waxing crescent moon is still in Libra. We will move officially into the waxing half on July 17th. We'll talk about that in next week's episode. So really all we have left to talk about here are the few couple holy days that we have. And some interesting stuff here, honestly. From July 16th to the 22nd, we have Sao Deu, which is a Vodou or Vodun celebration that we find in Haiti. blessings and light and protection and power to the people of Haiti right now. Um, the name is French for waterfall. Isn't that interesting? With our description about working with the waxing crescent in Libra. The name for this comes from the word waterfall, and it is named after a large waterfall called Les Sautes. The area holds cultural significance in Haiti. Both Catholic and Voodoo practitioners celebrate here. There has been sightings of the Virgin Mary in this place, but the Virgin Mary is tied intrinsically to the Loa deity or entity Erzuli. And so this character and this space and this waterfall and the water here is also sacred and dedicated to the Loa Dambala and Ayarawido. So a lot of really cool stuff happening collectively there. Also on this day, we have the feast of Nanabaruku, and this comes from our Yoruba land friends. Nanabaruku is a major Orisha of the Yoruba religion, recognized for her powerful gifts and immense wisdom, also known as Nana Baruku. This is the wise Orisha grandmother who represents strength and ancestral knowledge. It is said that it is very old, and as such, it demands respect from its devotees. This deity is attributed immense spirituality, and the Yoruba consider her mother of God and grandmother of all the Obatala. It is the mediator between life and death, since Nana is a powerful ancient force that goes above and beyond all of the head of the believer. It is said that it has already existed before the arrival of Oduduwa, and its food is the spirit of beings. Nana is also another deity that has both male and female characteristics. And again, here in this same week, right? Very cool. She rules in nature in the powerful energy of the water holes, the mouths of rivers, swamps, lagoons. She is considered the mother of Babalu Eya, and she is also described as being really mysterious and a terrible deity if provoked. And so she is also known as or syncretizes with Santa Ana and the Virgin of the Way or the Virgin del Camino. So Santa Ana is the patroness of pregnant women, and this is considered to be the mother of the Virgin Mary and therefore the grandmother of Jesus. And we've had some stuff with her earlier this year. And then we also have the Virgin del Camino, or the protector of the roads, and the Virgin del Camino, also known as this is a Marian invocation. So she connects to the Marian archetype or entity body of all the Marys and Marias and Marians and marine stuff. Yes, those words all connect together. So there's that. Also on this day, it's Global Drag Day. So this is a day that aims to celebrate and recognize the drag art all around the world. This day was created by Adam Stewart in 2009 through his Facebook fan page for drag queens. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the week. We also have the Vitulatio from the Romans. This was an annual Thanksgiving that was celebrated in ancient Rome, but, not really too much else to say about it. So that brings us, honestly, to the end of the week. What do we got? Okay, in our lunar phases, we have new moon in Cancer, waxing crescent in Leo, waxing crescent in Virgo, waxing crescent in Libra. And generally speaking, a lot of the themes that we saw in our holy days this week have to do with fertility, crops coming in, or the worshiping of the first green stalks that are coming up in the harvests that are about to happen. We have a lot of non-binary entities and celebrations. So, even Gemini itself is a very polygendered, non-binary gendered deity or archetype. So we have a lot of that kind of symbolism. A lot of water symbolism, a lot of pregnancy and fertility symbolism, and a lot of blurring of the gender symbolism. So pretty cool stuff all the way through the week. My friends, that is enough from me, and I hope it's enough for you. Next week, we have our waxing half moon in Libra. We have on the same day, the moon moves into Scorpio and the sun opposed Pluto. We will have Venus entering Virgo, and we will have the sun entering Leo. It's all the hits, all the classics. We're going to even get some B-side deep cuts off of our favorite albums. It's going to be fantastic. Blessed be. Thank you for joining me once again for my rambling, bizarre freak out that is the Spinning the Wheel podcast. Who knows what form it'll take next week, because I have a lot of mutable signs in my chart, so change is a constant for me. But yeah, blessed be, happy new moon in Cancer, and let's go.